What's up, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here with Mike Kaye. The latest episode of the No Huddle Show from Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles lost to the Tennessee Titans 27-10. Their season's over. We can start thinking about the offseason and the draft and planning for it. Now, the Eagles lost a meaningless game, but something meaningful did happen pretty early on. You like that segue there? That was pretty good, I thought. Nate Sudfeld hurt his wrist early in the game. Second quarter was near halftime. Fractured it. He's getting surgery in the morning. Probably by the time some of you listen to this, he's getting surgery. It's not a good sign for the number 2 quarterback. It happened on a roughing the passer play where he got hit and he kind of like fell down weird on it. This kind of underscores why the Eagles didn't play Carson Wentz today, and I would bet maybe they don't play him at all in the next 4 weeks. We're going to talk a lot about what this means, but I think that was kind of like the initial reaction. Like, this is exactly why the preseason is so important. That wasn't even that was such a bad football game too. Like, you forget how bad the preseason is until you're watching it.
Yeah, that was probably the worst non-preseason finale game that I've ever seen.
You missed the Eagles-Browns, I believe, was like 3-0.
Oh, I watched that on TV
last year. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was rough. In a game that didn't have really many highlights, we did see a glimmer of hope for Nate Sudfeld when he tossed the ball downfield, connected with Marcus Michel for a 75-yard touchdown.
It was awesome.
And you kind of felt like maybe something had clicked. I mean, he got off to a little bit of a rough start, and then stuff started happening. And then, unfortunately, like you said, he suffers his broken wrist. It kind of put Cody-Kessler in like a really awkward position. Yeah, that's part of the job as a backup quarterback to come in when a guy gets injured. But initially, it looked like there was confusion whether Nate had suffered an injury just from where we were at. And then he came over, he was shaking his head, and then Cody had to rush in. They didn't really... It was right before halftime.
Well, he went right to the trainer's table, so I don't know if that wasn't that long of a question.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
That like 15 seconds.
Yeah, like the 15 seconds. But anyway, like from where...
It sounded like it was like 5 minutes.
No. So anyway, he went to the medical tent. Cody went out there, had a couple of plays. Jake Elliott missed a 40-yard field goal. They went into halftime. Then Cody came out and played the third quarter and didn't show anything that can make you feel comfortable about him, taking over for Nate. Clayton Thorson, we'll talk about him later on the podcast, but preview, brutal. This is a major, like you said, this was a meaningless game, but this was a major blow for the Eagles. Yeah. Look, Nate Sudfeld, the drop-off between Nick Foles and Nate Sudfeld was going to be massive. That said, Nate's been in the system for 3 years. The coaching staff trusts him. He's a guy that had every reason to play really well because he was going to be a free agent next year and probably wanted to compete for a starting job next year. This is a bummer. Luckily, it happened to his non-throwing wrist. He'll be back eventually. I think the first thing you and I need to discuss is not being doctors, obviously. But
you don't know what I know.
But Doug-Pederson said that the injury isn't season ending. And that's fine, but logically, when you get into numbers crunching, you already have Camus Grugier-Hill, who's probably going to miss 2 or 3 games. You've got Cravon LeBlanc. We haven't seen Fletcher Cox back on the practice field. We haven't seen Nigel Bradham. We haven't seen Ronald Darby. So how many guys are you going to keep?
Use the roster spot up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a numbers crunching situation. You're probably going to bring in projects like keep Jordan Mailata and Matt Pryor and stuff like that. This is going to limit your numbers. And my first conclusion that I jumped to when they said his season isn't over, if I'm them and I'm Howie, I'm putting him on IR. And then if I feel like Cody-Kessler is not showing me what he should do enough during the preseason, and then during the season in practice, then you can bring him back. I mean, they can't put him on IR and designate him to return until final cutdowns anyway. So you get to look at what you have in Cody-Kessler. And Cody-Kessler's going to play a lot over the next couple of weeks. I want you to get in on this, but are you with me on that same wavelength? I think you put him on IR.
I kind of don't, just because, it all depends on the severity of this injury. So the fact that it happened this early in the preseason, so if he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, let's say, I know Dr. David Chow, who's usually pretty good about these things, he said he's going to be out a while. whatever that means. That's not like a length of time, obviously, but it's a while. It's not the season, but so if it's 6 to 8 weeks, so 6 weeks from now, that means he's only missing 3 games. Like, you're not going to put a guy in IR if he's going to be ready to play in week 4.
Right, but also he's going to be coming off a huge lag in playing.
I'm aware of that, but
that's what I'm saying.
Cody Kessler's terrible. You don't have another option on the roster, and he's on IR healthy.
But is Nate Sudfeld that much better than
Cody Kessler? Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, Cody Kessler's thrown 25 passes in the NFL. Like, Cody Kessler's actually won games.
Passes.
No, Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld has thrown 25 passes. Cody Kessler's actually won games. Look, I'm not going to defend Cody Kessler. I think he's a below average backup. Or he's an average backup.
You're like trying to justify it yourself right now.
He's an average backup, but he's got a very low ceiling. He's got a high floor, low ceiling.
I don't know if he has a high floor.
He's got. Compared, like, when you look at the backups around the league, Ryan Tannehill's maybe the best backup in the league right now.
He's just as bad as other backups in the league doesn't mean he's better than Nate Sudfeld.
But what has Nate Sudfeld shown you?
I'm not saying he's shown me anything, but Cody Kessler hasn't shown me anything either in the games he's played.
Okay, and that's fine, but then why? But my point is like, why would you be like, oh man, I gotta have Nate Sudfeld backing up Carson Wentz?
I'm saying you're removing that option if Cody Kessler is terrible.
No, but here's the thing though: if Cody Kessler's terrible during the preseason, then you don't put him on IR. But my thinking is if you see enough from Cody Kessler, then you can feel. What
have you seen from Cody Kessler through training camp and this week that makes you think you will see enough from him?
I mean. No, but you don't have to make that decision now.
You don't have to make the Nate Sudfeld decision now either.
No, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to make the Nate Sudfeld decision. My thought process is if Cody shows you enough over the next 3 games and in training camp, the decision is easy. You put Nate Sudfeld on injured reserve, and you can always bring him back. I mean,
my only point: if he's ready to come back in week 3, you're having him sit on IR, and you can't even practice with them for 6 weeks.
And that's but. It's not like you have Nick Foles and you're putting him on an injured reserve. I'm
aware of that.
But you're putting a guy who's an anomaly and who
they trust.
Okay, but he's also going to be coming off a lack of practice and a lack of game experience.
Yeah, he'll be coming off more lack of practice if he's gone for 8 weeks.
I just to me, your numbers game is just... For a backup quarterback, it just seems like a kind of a waste of... Not a waste of...
On a team where a quarterback has been unable to stay healthy for a full season.
But if you lose Carson, you're done anyway. Right, that's my point.
So you still try and put yourself in the best position to win, and they clearly think Sudfeld is that.
I mean...
They do. They think that.
I know that.
Whether you think that is irrelevant here.
No, and I get that. But I'm just saying, at some point, you've got a bunch of short-term injuries. Eventually, you have to make a decision, and Nate's not going to play unless the worst-case scenario happens. So, that said, it might make sense to either look at the free... I mean, there's no one in free agency.
Let me look at this another way, besides the argument we're having. So... They were going to keep 3 quarterbacks anyway, right?
Probably, yes.
Clayton Thorson doesn't deserve to be on this team right now, so why not keep Kessler and not put Sudfeld on IR?
I mean, that's a valid question, but also...
I would rather have Sudfeld injured for 3 weeks than Clayton Thorson healthy for 8
So let's say Nate Sudfeld gets...
This is all I don't know if he's on
Right. In an alternate universe, let's say that Nate's pulled before that last series, and he is healthy right now. And you saw what Kessler did and what Thorson did.
I would have cut Thorson and kept Kessler.
But are you keeping 3 just to keep 3 then?
Not just to keep. I mean, you have a. I think they. I guess I see.
You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Was there anything that you saw?
If you keep Thorson, I feel like you're keeping 3 just for the sake of keeping.
Correct. That's my point. So I
don't know. I don't think they were keeping Thorson just based on what we saw tonight.
Okay, so if they weren't, then that was 2 guys, and so that's 1 extra opening. That's my point to you. Is if you value that opening, now granted, do you really need a 6 wide receiver over your backup quarterback? Do you need a 10th lineman? So that's that's why I buy your argument. But
that's where you have to go through each position. Do they really want to keep Mark and Michelle over Nate or over Cody Kessler or whatever it is?
I think what's concerning is we don't know anything about where Darby's at. We don't know where Bradham's at. We don't know where Cox is at. We know where Camu's going to miss time. We know that
Camus and Cravon are on the bit because you can only return 2 guys off the IR.
And I've seen people on Twitter say, "Well, Cravon's only the 6th cornerback."
He's more important.
He's more important than that. He's also a really good special teams player, and if you're cutting Sheldon Gibson, you need a really good gunner to replace him. That's Crayvon LeBlanc.
And Camus is very important also.
Yeah, Camus like the best special teams player on the team.
I will give, they're not the Eagles are still Super Bowl contenders without those two guys.
Right.
But, they're important for different reasons. And we don't know who's going to be out longer out of those two. We just don't know what. So if both of them are out through week 8, it's kind of a moot point anyway. So then you might as well just keep Sudfeld as your third guy.
Right.
So this is all us not knowing the medical.
It's conjecture. But that said, we have said this multiple times, and I said this on the podcast earlier in the week. This team will go as far as Carson Wentz does, and it's still one of the deepest rosters in the league. Neither one of those things have changed after tonight. This was a brutal performance by this team, but it was also a lot of guys.
Most of the guys were not there.
Right.
So Jordan Howard started. He was one of the rare starters that played. But Vaitai is the only one you could argue on offense that will be a starter in week 1 besides.
Well, he might not even be.
He might not, depending on Brooks. But
Nate Gary was out.
I'm saying on offense. I'm saying. So, Jeffrey was out, Deshaun was out, Nelson-Agholor, all the O-linemen. Malik Jackson played, actually. Defensive end Josh Sweat started, so there was no Barnett or Brandon Graham. Linebacker, obviously.
That's another one, Barnett. We don't,
Yeah, that one's been weird. Nobody's really talked about that.
The ghost of Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins.
There's so many. I think part of the issue for us is how secretive this team is with injuries. So it's
Doug was surprisingly open about Nate tonight, though.
Yeah, well, it was open-ish. Clear as day. I think the PR staff was like, hey, by the way, you could basically...
What if he said upper body injury again?
Yeah, that would have been great.
Come on, Doug.
So let's get beyond the IR thing. So the second thing that we need to talk about is, do you have the free agent list? Can you pull up the free agent list?
So I will say that I think the answer is pretty obvious who they signed. Sammy Sleeves.
Sammy Bradford?
In Philadelphia. Complete Chip Kelly's dream of winning a Super Bowl for the city.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think they're better off.
That would be so funny.
I think they're better off giving Greg Ward reps.
Yeah. I said Greg Ward and Braxton Miller. They're
Braxton, you got a shot.
So Ruben Frank quote tweeted something. I made a joke about that, and he's like, "So let's debate who's the second best healthy quarterback on the roster. Is it is it Braxton Miller? Is it Greg Ward?" But so the free agents Colin Kaepernick is the big name, and he's probably the best available. But
but I don't think you bring
40 years, and he's more of a not getting into all the side
Matt
stuff.
Castle's the only real legitimate name. He's been terrible.
So I have a few of the names here. Let's see. Brock Osweiler, the Sanchez.
He just retired.
He's the kind of guy that will come out if a team's will you play for us? I could see Doug liking him. Let's see. Here's Connor Cook, JT Barrett. Get another Ohio State guy. Josh McCown. You can get him to come out of retirement. I don't know.
That would be probably the only logical move.
It's pretty barren wasteland out there. So the guy the Titans have, Logan Woodside.
My guy.
Third string. He looked pretty good against the Eagles' fourth string defense or whatever. But
Toledo torpedo.
The best case scenario is they're able to trade for a guy like that who you don't even want to play anyway.
Well, and you talk about that too. You've got to look at what teams have, and then if they can have a backup.
If they can have a backup that they can trade,
right?
Like when Bridgewater got traded by the Jets,
right? And you know what? Honestly, I don't think any of the teams that have that sort of situation have guys that are better than Cody.
The only one
Chase Daniel makes sense.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is one.
Jeff Driscoll from Cincinnati would make sense, but I don't know.
Fitzpatrick's the only one you could be okay, maybe that he can not win games for them, but not lose them. He also is a guy that throws a lot of picks. Anyway, the point is, there's not good options out there. Cody Kessler's as good as most of the guys.
And that's my point. Is I don't think you're finding the solution.
That's why Doug said they're not going to. He says at least as of now.
I think they bring in a camp arm,
like Luis Perez or something.
Yeah.
Bring the bowler back.
Yeah, you might as well. Bowling 300.
We already argued about Cody Kessler for a while. I think we're both in agreement about our boy Clayton Thorson. I joked in the last podcast that maybe we should have a segment called "How Did This Get Thrown?" And I think that it's officially a thing now, as long as Clayton Thorson is playing.
Yeah, we're gonna get music for this segment moving forward.
So first throw he had was almost identical to the one we talked about from practice, where he rolled out right and threw it at Donald Pumphrey's feet this time. Last time was Boston Scott. He said that's a chip shot. Like, Donald Pumphrey would have gained 20 yards.
He would have. He was wide open.
No kidding. And then he had, I believe it was the next play where he threw the pick, right?
No, it was the next series.
So it was just a bad throw. Oh, yeah. So it was a bad throw. He overthrew a guy. Then they leave the field, come back. He threw.
There was nobody
near him. It was a bad pick.
JoJo Tillery.
So I found it interesting. Like, after the game.
Wait! You haven't even brought up probably his second worst throw. Mark Michel is darting across the field. This is I think the second to last drive. Throws the ball 8 feet in the air, like beyond Mitchell's Michel's vertical, misses him hard. Like, the play would have gone for 45 yards. Like, he had plenty of room to run. I don't know, dude. Like, he is as bad of a quarterback as I have seen in 5 years of covering the NFL as a beat writer and 10 years of covering it as a blogger or beat writer. Like,
So
I'm perplexed. I
want to flash back to Mike Rowe press conference, and I believe it was July 31st.
Uh-huh.
And I think, because I asked him a question about Thorson, somebody else said, I can't remember if it was from my question, but it was like, basically, what has he done well in camp?
He's tall.
His answer, for the most part, had to do with his ability to communicate and the tone of his voice and the volume of the sound of his voice.
Oh yeah, his cadence.
His cadence. I don't think Rowe meant it to come, like, when you read back the quote, you're like, I don't.
Yeah, the quote's an all-timer.
It's like really damning. It's really damning. Like, so the fact that that's the first thing that you think of when you ask what a guy's doing well is that, like, they can't even, he's not even pretending that he's doing a great job. So I don't know how well he communicated out there today.
Well, I mean, not well with his arm. That's
but yeah. So I talked to him after the game in the locker room, and he had like a smile. It wasn't like he was happy or anything. It was like almost like he was laughing at how bad he was.
He was really embarrassed.
I forget. I tweeted out what the quote that he has. Let me pull it up real quick. Sorry. It's a great radio podcasting. He said, I think I was just excited. I felt like I was seeing it well. The guys I was throwing to were open. I just missed them. Well, yeah. I mean, so he's been doing the same thing throughout camp. Like, he clearly is nervous. Like, there's definitely, you can tell, like, there's nerves there. But I don't know if there is skill there on top of the nerves.
Yeah, look, intelligence
we'll give the guy a chance. We'll give him his least.
Intelligence is really vital to playing quarterback, but so is also accuracy. And dear Lord, some of these throws, like, it's one thing if you had one of them, like, in your first preseason game, but like every single throw.
I think he only completed one pass, and it was
actually a really
Braxton
nice,
Miller, I believe.
Yeah, it was a nice, shot put looking thing.
I'm talking about this to a few people. And this is the sort of story that would be interesting, but guys wouldn't admit to it. It's like, so the guys that he has to play with in that area are all fighting for their jobs. They're all third stringers. And when your quarterback can't get you the ball, they can't prove themselves. So I'm sure that's frustrating. I know coaches are understanding of that. But, like, at what point? Well, they only have two quarterbacks that are healthy. Oh, they have Carson Wentz is healthy, but I doubt he plays. So are you going to keep putting Thorson out there and, like, just not being able to run your offense and not being able to see how these guys are? Like, I don't know how they go. That's why they probably have to bring in a guy like Luis Perez. But
can I give you a suggestion?
Yeah.
If they do not play Carson Wentz on next Thursday
against the Jaguars,
Cody-Kessler's playing that whole game. That's what I would do.
I think they give.
You have to see what Cody
Thorson
can do.
A quarter at least, probably though.
Well, but you can give Clayton the entire fourth game.
They should. I agree with you. That's what they should do. But if they're going to give Thorson more time,
I mean,
Cody needs. I agree with you.
Cody needs to play with the first stringers. If Carson,
that's how you find out if Cody Kessler can run the offense.
So I will tell you this, and having spoken to people in that Jaguars locker room about Cody Kessler, there were a lot of people that liked him a lot and felt like he's
a likable guy for sure.
Well, but he's actually very, very accurate. The problem with him is when you need a big play, he can't always give that to you. That's his downside. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league from last year. He's made some good throws in camp. He's thoroughly outplayed Clayton Thorson.
So have I.
Yes, you have. Yes. I mean,
there's a group of my friends that there was one summer where we were playing football and I was doing so bad that I was like throwing picks, like the ball was wobbling. They were calling me Rex Grossman. I feel like I was throwing it as well as Clayton Thorson that day.
It's good to have standards. So let's talk about this. Cody-Kessler lights it up. Against the Jags.
What's Cody-Kessler lighting it up?
16 of 21 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he leads 4 scoring drives against the Jaguars. I mean, I think...
You need to see it for more than one game.
Right, you do. But also, I'm going to go back to the Sudfeld thing. Sudfeld threw a lot of picks last year in the preseason. He was not very...
Sudfeld looked really good in the preseason.
But he also threw a lot of picks. There were times where he looked bad. And I think he was a mixed bag to me. And I did watch all the Eagles preseason because I was getting hired for this job. So did I. Well, anyway. But my point to you is Cody does have more experience. He's not as mobile as Nate.
He had 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like everybody is blown Nate Sudfeld out of the water.
He was really good last year in the preseason.
He was fine. He was fine. I think he showed potential.
That Cody-Kessler has never made in his career.
Okay, and that's fine. But Cody's also...
I'm just saying. You're acting like he was garbage last year.
No, he wasn't garbage. He was fine. He showed potential. He did what a young backup quarterback should do. I also watched Cody-Kessler not throw an interception until mid-August in Jaguars training camp. I get it. It's not ideal. Ideal would be having Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld's more physically talented than Cody-Kessler. But what I'm saying to you is Kessler's done it. He's been out there on Sundays. He's been a starter. He's thrown more than 25 passes in a game.
Chance Warmack has also been out there a lot of Sundays.
Right, but what I'm saying...
I know what you're saying.
He's also a sharp guy. So I think...
What I'm hearing is that Mike Kaye is a Cody-Kessler stan.
No, I know I have more insight into him than most people that have watched him.
The readers are talking. They're listening to this live.
I don't know, man. I can't wait for the feedback on this podcast. Team K or Team Blatt, okay?
Actually tell us what
let us know. Let us know. We want to know. But to me, this is a big loss from an upside standpoint. It's not a huge loss from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
If Luis Perez was the other guy in this room and not Cody-Kessler, I would tell you, hey, ring the bell. You better bring back Sammy Sleeves. But my point is Cody-Kessler
anyway.
This is actually bringing in Cody-Kessler actually turned out to be a very smart and shrewd move by Howie Roseman to have another veteran in that room. And the fact that Cody-Kessler wanted to come here, even though it was pretty clear he was playing to make somebody else's roster, has worked out for everybody involved. Whether he makes his team or not, whether they decide to put Nate Sudfeld on injured reserve.
The right move, yeah.
Right, it's the right move because you know what? He can lead this offense the next 3 weeks if they don't want to risk putting Carson Wentz out there. And just as vital is keeping Carson Wentz healthy, you need to make sure that your offense is in sync. And if you have a guy that can run the offense as a dummy quarterback, sorry, I mean, that might not be the best word, but
you just called Cody-Kessler a dummy, didn't you?
But as a test dummy quarterback.
You're calling him a dummy.
I'm not a dummy. But if you can do that, that's smart. You can give Cody Kessler's been in 4 different offenses since he got in the NFL. He understands different offenses, and I think if you have him out there with Alshon, Deshaun, and whoever, and you're running the offense, that helps.
Yeah. He needs to get reps with the first team.
Right. Granted, he hasn't been in this offense for 3 years like Nate Sudfeld. That's why Nate Sudfeld...
He said that after the game.
That's why Nate Sudfeld's the ideal guy.
Yeah.
But from an experience and from hey, I'm not going to be nervous in this setting standpoint, Cody-Kessler can handle the job. Is he the most talented guy? No. But he can run this offense. People are forgetting he got Nelson-Agholor to be a first-round pick. Nelson-Agholor had his best...
Nelson-Agholor got Cody-Kessler to be in the NFL. It is not...
No, that's not what the... No.
Whoever was throwing the ball was going to get it to Agholor.
But my point...
You said Cody-Kessler made him a first-round pick.
No, but he helped...
came out of your mouth.
But what I mean is... Cody was great at
You
USC.
said he made Nelson-Agholor a first-round pick.
Okay, sorry, that's whatever. But I'm just saying Nelson-Agholor's best work.
I get what you're saying, but it's not what you said.
Okay, but Nelson-Agholor's best work came with Cody Kessler as the starting quarterback for the USC Trojans. Sorry, I'm not trying to credit him, but I'm just saying Nelson's last season was very successful, partially because Cody Kessler did a really good job as a quarterback for the Trojans. So they have chemistry. They still talk about stuff.
We're going all the way back to USC now for your case for Cody.
Not really. Bringing it back. I talked to Cody last week, and he said Nelson's really been helping him with this offense. They talk about it all the time. He calls. They have conversations. There's a rapport there, and I think that helps. And I also think it helps with the connection for the rest of the offense and the wide receivers if you have Nelson-Agholor being an ambassador for Cody's brand in the huddle. And I think there's something to that. I mean, Nelson would have been a top pick anyway, but I'm just saying,
oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I thought Cody Kessler was the reason why he's in.
God, you guys are also Team K. I know it. But I'm just saying,
I'm going to use your quote as the.
This guy isn't coming in as a blank, as just a blank slate. He's got experience in the league. He knows what he's doing. Is he extremely talented? No. But he actually knows what he's doing, which is not something that Clayton Thorson does. And, he can run an offense. And he's got recent starting experience. He's not like Mark Sanchez, who's been a backup for 45 teams over the last 4 years.
Get the Sanchez back in the mix. Let's do it.
I mean, he's not like Sammy Sleeves, who, couldn't stay healthy to save his life.
I was joking about the Bradford thing, by the way. I hope everybody knows that.
Yeah, he can joke about the Bradford thing, but I can't talk about Kessler and Agholor. Anyway,
you weren't joking when you said that.
But he
you literally said he got him to the NFL.
I mean, he made him look good. He did make him look good.
He was a quarterback who could get a really good receiver the ball. He didn't make him look good. Nelson-Agholor made Cody Kessler look good.
Yeah, there were times.
Kessler can't throw the ball 20 yards. Nelson-Agholor scored
Marquise Lee balled with him too.
Yeah, they also balled with all the other quarterbacks they had at USC. What are you talking about? I covered the Pac-12 for my whole career.
Whatever. Anyway, my point is...
God. You actually defended that point.
No, what I'm saying to you is there's a rapport there, and they have had success together.
See, we wouldn't have argued about all this if you just said they have a rapport instead of saying he got him to the NFL.
It is 12:30 at night, and I watched the worst football game I've ever seen.
We can both agree on that.
Give me a break.
So to just take a step back for a second, we are arguing a lot about the number 2 quarterback. Best case scenario, we'd never have to worry about, the Eagles never have to worry about them seeing the field. Carson Wentz, for what it's worth, I know he missed the first couple games last year. That was from the injury from the year before. He usually doesn't miss games in the beginning of the season. So if he can stay healthy for the entire season this year, which we've talked about plenty, they're going to probably contend for a Super Bowl, and that's all that matters. Carson Wentz staying healthy, which is why, do you agree, he probably won't play in the preseason?
Maybe he plays in week 3 if they do it. I mean, here's the situation to me. If you're going to sit him for week 2, then why put him out in week 3?
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's kind of my...
I mean, Carson pretty much said at his press conference that preseason doesn't really matter.
I mean, it doesn't.
I mean, we saw it today.
It matters to people at the bottom of the roster. It does not matter.
Exactly.
Right. So
the important thing is that he builds his chemistry with his receivers and Deshaun, which he clearly has, and Alshon and all these new guys.
Right, but there really isn't that many new guys, right? So
it's Sanders and Deshaun pretty much.
Right. So, look, Pederson has said before that he has his first-team guys get a lot of reps, so that way it's not as big of a deal if they don't play in the preseason. I think that's a really smart philosophy. He clearly knows what he's doing based on the ring he owns and probably a safe or something.
I wonder where he keeps his ring.
Yeah. Well, Darren Sproles keeps his in a safe. Anyway.
I'm smart.
But, I think they're in a position to kind of do whatever because they have Kessler. Not that Kessler's that important, but you know that he can play a whole preseason game and won't put your wide receivers at risk or risk injury because he doesn't know what he's doing. Clayton Thorson was making some throws that could have gotten players injured. That's when you're concerned about a guy being in a game. And Cody Kessler's not going to do that. So I think, from that standpoint, you're in okay shape. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
by the way, Cody Kessler was 3 for 6 for 12 yards.
Yeah, he wasn't good. I'm not saying he's super talented, but he knows what he's doing.
I want to make sure to point that out.
I was honestly kind of, from an analytical sense, it's kind of disappointing that he didn't try to push the ball, considering he was playing with house money, basically.
Yeah, he should get knocked for that for sure.
Right, yeah. His performance was not good. The running game was terrible.
So if Cody Kessler comes out and plays like this the next 3 weeks, are you still feeling as confident?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
So why does his experience matter if it's that easy for it to flip the other way?
No, what I'm saying is the experience is important because he can run an offense. Yeah. I'm not saying, if they have to go run heavy, he knows how to execute the offense. He knows how to make calls. He's not going to get nervous out there. He's got intangibles. And does that mean he's going to win games? No. But if he can
if he's starting like that.
Right, yeah. I mean,
it's no fault of his.
Let's say that Carson suffers a broken finger on his throwing hand, okay? And he has to miss 2 games. If you have Kessler, whatever. I mean, he gives you a chance to win.
2-game stretch, you feel like a little less.
Right.
The world is ending.
But Thorson,
the world is over.
Yeah, the world's over.
The apocalypse has already happened.
Right.
And you're in.
Luis Perez couldn't even make it to training camp.
He's in a bowling alley somewhere right now.
I hope so. Hopefully in New Jersey. But yeah, we've gone back and forth about this. From your standpoint, are you concerned about the way this team played today? I know there weren't a lot of starters, but they're supposed to be one of the deepest teams in the league, and guys out there like Vinny Curry and Nathan Gary and Zack Brown and some guys with experience.
I'm not concerned just because the concern I have has nothing to do with what I saw today. The concern I have is that they have so many guys that are banged up, and that's kind of how it was last year. They had everybody banged up. The preseason, they didn't look good. I believe they lost every one, if I remember correctly. They started off the season really slow, as we know, so then they can't get off to a slow start again. They have a pretty tough gauntlet, right in the middle part of the season. They only travel one. They only have to get on a plane once in the second half of the year. So if they can get to the second half of the year with a decent record, they're in good shape. But my concern is the lack of cohesion with all the guys playing. Mm-hmm. Not that they look terrible tonight. Maybe we're overzealous about how much depth they have, is what you could say, I guess, because these are all the depth guys in theory. But I'm not worried yet. Again, it's all about their starters. As long as those guys play, then you don't have to worry about playing these backups. That's just what it comes down to, obviously. All right, well, we can end on that note. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been the latest episode of the No Huddle Show. If you don't already, make sure you subscribe. We're on all the apps. Leave us a comment. Tell us who won the Kaye v. Rosenblatt battle of 2019.
Hashtag Team K.
Leave us comments. Ask us questions. We'll try and answer them. We're going to get another podcast at some point before the next game. And then we'll do another post-game one next week, and we'll just kind of be grinding these out. Check out all of our content at NJ.com/Eagles, and thanks for listening.